We used to take our 2-week vacation there in Provincetown every year. My grandmother still has a great big house there with an open lot across the street on the water, on the harbor. And the next door was a small wharf, and a Portuguese guy used to build boats. He built a whole bunch of sailboats and would rent them out, and a bunch of rowboats to get you out to the sailboat. And in the wintertime, he could put them up on her lot, and she didn't charge him. So every summer we'd come down, we could use the sailboats for free, and we'd sail over to the point, have a picnic on Long Point, which is across the harbor from Provincetown. And it was very nice. And in those days, the Navy used to stop in Provincetown Harbor. So you'd suddenly have, 20 or 30 big Navy ships anchored out into the harbor and around the point down toward Truro and Wellfleet. So we used to go and sail around those. Lots of fun. Carolyn and I, we went out there for a picnic one time, and my father built this fire up near the beach grass, and somehow it got away from us and started the fire, and we were right near the Long Point lighthouse, and there was a Coast Guard boat there, and bells started ringing, and the boat went out into the water, and they came over, put the fire out fairly quickly, but it's not but beach grass and sand, so there wasn't really much to burn. But we got a reprimand for starting the fire. And Carol and I used to play pirates on the sailboat while it was docked there. We'd climb all over the boat and hoist the sail up and try and keep it on shore. My great-grandmother's house was on Long Point. The whole town of Provincetown initially was on the point in among the sand dunes, and it was a long walk around. There's since built a breakwater, big granite stones you could walk across on that, but in those days they didn't have it, so they floated the whole town. I think there were like 16 buildings, houses, and a couple of stores that they floated across. And my great-grandmother's, the Atwood family, was floated across, and they put it on the street that became Atwood Lane, a little very crooked sandy road. It never got paved in my days. And I can't think of her first name. We used to call her Mommy Addie, and somehow the Addie came from her given name, but I have no idea what it was. One of you geniuses with a computer will have to look and go into the Census Bureau or something for Provincetown and find out who owned the house until 1936 when she died. She was like 98, I think. She used to go to my grandmother's, Fanny Atwood, to live during the wintertime and everything. She had a room up at the back staircase at my grandmother's house, and she used to go over there all the time. In fact, that's where I would always see her. Very seldom would go over to her house. But Fanny Atwood,
was the daughter
Fanny
of
Atwood Chipman, yeah.
No, wait, Fanny was the mother.
No,
Mommy Addie.
Fanny was my grandmother's,
Okay.
and Mommy Addie was her mother. I think she was 96 when she died, something like that, I think.
Hopefully she was 98.
And Grandma Chip was almost that age too when she finally died. All the women really lived a long time. The men did as well. My father's father, when he was only 12, I don't know how his father was, 20 years older than that,
Yeah, your dad died.
But anyway, then I forgot how long Aunt Lucille lived. I don't remember when she died.
She lived a pretty long time.
Yeah, and my mother was, 92, 93 when she died. So they've all done very well. My father died at 52, 54 and 52. And his father, as I say, very young.
But look at you.
Look at me, yeah,
You're
wow.
82, you're going to be 83.
I've taken over the female genes.
You have.
So my father owned the grocery store there that went out of business, and he'd moved to North Beverly, where he became an accountant at the United Shoe Machinery Corporation. He was in charge of in those days, what was the automated equipment, all this IBM punch card stuff. And I worked there on vacations and stuff. I went first to work up in the office and was chasing orders through the plants to change them, add something, delete something, change directions, change delivery instructions. So my first year that I worked there, I did all that good stuff. The next year I worked in a tool room up on the floor where the high school's shop came. So they had a little of all kinds of machines, and the tool shop had all kinds of equipment. I then moved down to the automatic screw department, where they were making screws and bolts, and the place were screaming with noise. It was just terrible. All these machines, grinding the metal made an awful lot of noise. And it was all tools and dies down there that I had to work with. Then I worked for a short time as a paper crumpler. They had these two big stacks of newspapers, and you'd crumple them up and put them in a box that they took into the shipping department to pack around the machinery. Now, there's a woman there before me who got promoted to a ladies' room attendant. I didn't know if that was going to happen to me or what. But no such luck. I then went to the foundry, where I would dust off the castings after they'd poured the castings and stuff like that, and help them break them apart. Then I got a job up on the floor at a big milling machine, a big, I can't think what you called it. It was a big drill, and I would move the castings around into the 8 different positions on this machine, and the machinist would drill it, take that one, move it to the next spot. He'd drill that, would move around and around. It was an ideal clicking machine, ICM. You see it in all the repair shops. They usually have one on the back. It's got a kind of a curved plate, and it would stamp out leather. And I worked on that in my last job at the United Shoe.
When did you guys get your first car?
1932. My father got a bonus from World War I, $500. And so we went down to the Ford agency and bought our 1932 Ford. Then we had a 1937 Ford, which is when I bought from the agency to go to Texas and New Mexico. Was that same old Ford? While I was waiting to go into the American Field Service, that fall after I was out of school, they had an ad in the paper and on the newsreels, news broadcasts, that they needed, the B&M needed shovelers to go in and shovel out switches for the trains in the station. And so my friend and I, who had also joined the American Field Service, went in. We took the train into the North Station in Boston and applied for a snow shoveling job. And they said, "Oh, we don't need you snow shoveling. We need some assistant firemen out in the roundhouse." So they put us on the train, and took us out to the roundhouse. And we became assistant firemen, they called us. And we were climb up on the engine, we would shine the bell and sweep the sand off the dome. That's what made me think of it, sweeping the sand off. In the foundry, I swept sand off the domes on the engines, and we washed them. They gave us a bucket full of water, a couple of big long handled brushes, and we were washing this nice new engine, number 3711, the Allagash. And we ran out of stuff, so we mixed up a bucket of our own. It had acid and detergent in it, and we put too much acid in it. We're washing the coal car, and all of a sudden the white lettering, which was a nice script, Boston and Maine, started to run down. We're trying to push it back up, but all it did was wash off more. And the foreman came up and said, "Oh, well, I guess it needed painting anyway." And so the Allagash went into the paint shop and they spruced it all up. But I'll never forget the old 3711. And so mostly that's what we did. One time I was working on one that was out in the yard, and they wanted to bring it into the roundhouse, and they said, "Oh, you could do this." And there was a woman running the turntable, and she was always being real coy. She wouldn't line you up. You know, she'd put it over just beside or just back, and you know, you're ready to go on, and it wasn't there, so I had to be very careful. She finally lined it up, and the throttle on the steam engine was just up on your left hand, and you pull it back, and it goes shoo, and you leap forward 2 inches. So we ran the thing onto the center of the track, and she whooshed it around and lined it up with the right hole in the roundhouse, and off we came, chug, 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 into the roundhouse and pulled the brake on. And that was my experience of being an engineer for 5 minutes.